Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're going somewhere really chilling. Alcatraz Island. You probably know it as the Rock, an inescapable prison. But we're going way deeper than just the history of notorious convicts. We're diving into the truly creepy stuff.
Right, because Alcatraz has this long, unsettling history even before the prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Native American tribes considered the island cursed. They called it Evil Island and believed that spirits lingered there.
Wow.
And they even used it as a place of banishment. So you can imagine that sense of isolation, negative energy, really adding to the whole vibe.
That sets the stage for a seriously spooky deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got centuries of unsettling history, and then it becomes a military fort.
Yeah.
And that's when things start to get really interesting.
Exactly. Because even before the prison, soldiers stationed on Alcatraz were reporting some strange occurrences, ghostly figures, unexplained noises, that feeling of being watched, you know? It can really get under your skin, almost like whatever haunted the island was already there.
Oh, waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've already got chills. We haven't even gotten to the prison yet. Speaking of chills, let's talk about one of the most famous Alcatraz residents, Al Capone.
Okay.
Not only was he a ruthless gangster, but apparently his ghost is pretty musical.
Yeah, we're talking about the phantom banjo player of Alcatraz.
The phantom banjo player.
Yes.
I love that.
So Capone, infamous for his crimes, actually found solace in playing the banjo while he was imprisoned. But the reports persist, long after his death, of phantom banjo music. You can hear it echoing through the cell blocks, especially in the shower room in cell block B.
So, picture this. You're a guard making your rounds in the dead of night, and suddenly you hear the faint strains of a banjo coming from an empty shower room.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'd be running in the opposite direction.
Right. It gets even creepier. Because tour guides and visitors, they describe feeling cold drafts while the music plays, almost as if someone just brushed past them. It's that kind of sensory detail that really makes these stories come to life.
And let's not forget the alleged EVP recording of Capone's voice, saying, "Leave me alone," followed by the sound of banjo strings. Yeah. Talk about chilling evidence.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe his past victims are the ones haunting him? Making sure he doesn't find any peace, even in the afterlife.
Well, it's certainly a theory, and one that's been explored by paranormal investigators. Capone was a notoriously paranoid man, especially towards the end of his life. And some believe that his guilt and fear might have manifested in a way that continues to haunt Alcatraz.
I mean, there were those unexplained footprints that appeared in the prison yard. Could be connected.
Right.
Alcatraz really seems to be a place where the past refuses to stay buried. But let's move on to a location that's even more sinister. D Block, also known as the Hole. This is where the most unruly inmates were kept, right?
Exactly.
I bet the energy there is incredibly heavy.
D Block was designed for sensory deprivation and punishment.
Oh, wow.
It's a place that, seems tailor-made for hauntings. One of the most infamous stories is that of an inmate in cell 14D who claimed to be attacked by a creature with glowing eyes. He was found dead the next morning, with these unexplained marks on his body.
Oh my God.
Imagine the terror he must have felt in his final moments.
That's a terrifying story.
Yeah.
No wonder that cell, and D Block in general, has such a dark reputation. Are there any reports of similar occurrences happening after this incident?
Absolutely. Many visitors to D Block, they report feeling this unexplained chill, especially near cell 14D, as if the temperature just suddenly drops.
Yeah.
Others hear whispers, the clanging of cell doors, or even faint screams echoing from those cells, even though they're empty.
Okay, now I'm officially spooked. You know, it's fascinating how, even after all these years, people still report similar experiences in these places, like something is trapped there, unable to move on.
And it's not just visitors. You know, former guards who worked in D Block, they corroborate these stories, talking about hearing the cries of a deceased inmate long after his death. It's those consistent reports spanning decades that really make you wonder if there's something more to these experiences than just our imaginations.
We're definitely seeing a pattern here. But let's move on from the prison itself and talk about a place that's often overlooked in ghost stories. The warden's house. You'd think that living on an island prison wouldn't be anyone's idea of a good time.
Right.
But even the warden's house seems to have had its share of spooky events. What happened there?
Even though it's now in ruins, the warden's house has a history just as unsettling as the prison itself. There's a story of a Christmas party in the 1940s
Okay.
where guests reported these strange and frightening occurrences. So imagine trying to enjoy some holiday cheer while you're hearing unexplained moaning, crashing sounds, and even seeing a spectral figure dressed in 19th century attire.
It's like a scene from a gothic horror novel. You're trying to enjoy a festive gathering and suddenly you're caught in a ghost story. Did anyone else experience anything strange at the warden's house, or was it just a one-time thing?
Well, these strange occurrences at the warden's house weren't limited to just that one Christmas party. A park ranger who patrolled the island reported flickering lights, faint laughter, and the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty house.
Wow.
He was so disturbed by the experience that he refused to patrol alone ever again.
You know, it's one thing to hear about visitors having creepy experiences.
Yeah.
But when the people who work there, who are familiar with the island, report these kinds of things, it really makes you think.
It definitely adds another layer of credibility to the claims that Alcatraz is truly haunted.
Right.
It's as if the island itself is just imbued with this kind of unsettling energy that permeates every corner, every building, even reaching out to those who are just passing through.
So far, we've covered the phantom banjo player in the cell blocks, the chilling tales of D Block, and now a haunted warden's house. Alcatraz is quickly living up to its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Where do we go from here? What other eerie locations await us?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface. There's the utility corridor, the site of that violent 1946 escape attempt known as the Battle of Alcatraz.
Oh, yeah.
It's a place marked by death and desperation, and many believe that the intense emotions of that event still linger there. And they create this palpable sense of dread for those who dare to venture near it.
That sounds absolutely terrifying. We're definitely going to need more time to unpack all of the spooky secrets Alcatraz holds.
Yes, we will.
But I think we should leave our listeners hanging for now.
I agree. We'll pick up right where we left off next time. We'll explore more of Alcatraz's haunted locations and maybe even delve into some of the theories behind why this island seems to hold on to its dark past so tightly.
So until then, keep those lights on and maybe sleep with one eye open.
Yes.
You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the haunting tales of Alcatraz. Last time, we were talking about how this island just seems to hold on to its dark past. Maybe a little too tightly.
It really is amazing how even, seemingly normal places like the warden's house can become just steeped in unsettling stories. But you mentioned the utility corridor, the site of that violent escape attempt, the Battle of Alcatraz.
Right.
Tell me more about what makes that place so eerie.
So in 1946, there was this desperate and violent attempt to escape Alcatraz, which ended with the deaths of both inmates and guards. And the utility corridor was at the heart of it all. It's sealed off from the public now, but even decades later, people report feeling this intense, heavy energy there.
It makes you wonder if the sheer desperation and violence of that event left some sort of imprint on the location itself.
Yeah.
Maybe the emotions were so strong that they're somehow woven into the fabric of that place.
That's something that a lot of paranormal investigators have explored, and it ties into one of the leading theories behind hauntings, this idea of residual energy.
Oh, okay.
So the idea is that intense emotions, especially negative ones like fear, anger, or pain, can linger in a place long after the event itself has passed.
So you're saying that Alcatraz, with its history of imprisonment violence, even death, could be like a giant sponge for negative energy. No wonder so many people report feeling uneasy or even threatened while they're there.
Exactly. Think about it. For decades, Alcatraz was a place of confinement where people were stripped of their freedom, often subjected to harsh treatment. Those emotions, that sense of despair and hopelessness, they could be contributing to that unsettling atmosphere that a lot of people experience on the island.
It's almost as if the island itself is like a witness to all the suffering that took place within its walls, and it's holding on to those memories, unable to let go. But residual energy isn't the only theory out there, right?
Right.
What are some of the other explanations for why Alcatraz is so haunted?
Well, there are a few other intriguing possibilities. Some researchers point to infrasound, which are these low-frequency sound waves that can be created by things like ocean waves or wind patterns. And these sounds are often below the range of human hearing, but they can have this really profound psychological effect, causing feelings of uneasiness, anxiety, and even hallucinations.
So you're saying that the very geography of Alcatraz, being an island surrounded by water, exposed to those strong winds, could be generating these unsettling sounds that make people feel like they're experiencing something paranormal. Like the island itself is messing with our heads.
It's a fascinating theory, and one that has been studied in other supposedly haunted locations as well. And it's a reminder that sometimes what we perceive as supernatural might have a perfectly natural, albeit somewhat eerie explanation.
But even if infrasound is playing a role, it doesn't explain everything, does it?
Mhm.
What about the specific events that people report, like the phantom banjo music or the apparitions of shadowy figures?
You're right. Infrasound alone doesn't account for all the experiences that are reported on Alcatraz. Another theory suggests that the island might act as this kind of spiritual conductor.
Oh, wow.
So its unique location, isolated and bombarded by the forces of nature, it could amplify spiritual energy, drawing it in and trapping it almost in this repeating loop.
Okay, that sounds straight out of a science fiction movie.
Yeah.
So Alcatraz is like a giant antenna for the spirit world. But why would spirits be drawn to Alcatraz in the first place?
Well, remember, long before the prison, Native American tribes believed that Alcatraz was this place of powerful spirits, both good and evil. They even used it as a place of banishment, which could have further imbued the island with this sense of negative energy.
And there are stories about the island being used as a burial ground by Native Americans, right?
Yes.
Could that also be a contributing factor to the intense spiritual energy people sense on Alcatraz?
Absolutely. Many cultures believe that burial grounds hold this particular spiritual significance. They are literally places where the veil between the living and the dead is thinnest. So if Alcatraz was indeed used as a burial ground, it could explain why so many spirits seem drawn to the island and why their presence is felt so strongly.
It's like layers upon layers of history and energy are all converging on this one small island, creating this kind of paranormal perfect storm.
You know, we've been talking a lot about theories and possibilities. What about actual evidence? Are there any documented accounts or investigations that support the idea that Alcatraz is truly haunted?
Well, there have been countless paranormal investigations conducted on Alcatraz over the years, and many of them have come back with really compelling evidence.
Yeah.
For example, several reputable groups have captured electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs,
Oh, yeah.
which are recordings of voices or sounds that are not audible to the human ear at the time of recording.
EVPs are always so creepy. It's like you're listening in on another dimension, hearing voices from beyond the grave. What kind of EVPs have been captured on Alcatraz?
Well, one chilling example comes from that shower area where a man's voice was captured saying, "I'm still here."
Oh, wow.
Imagine being the investigator who hears that playback for the first time. Just thinking about it gives me chills. And you mentioned earlier that there are a lot of reports of people seeing shadowy figures on Alcatraz.
Right.
Has anyone ever managed to capture any of these apparitions on camera?
Yes. The San Francisco Paranormal Society actually captured footage of what appears to be a shadow figure in the warden's house.
Wow.
So it adds another layer of validation to the claims that this place is genuinely haunted.
It's like all the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together. The history, the legends, the anecdotal reports, and now concrete evidence captured by investigators. It's becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss the idea that something truly unexplained is happening on Alcatraz.
Exactly. And it's important to note that these investigations are conducted by people with a variety of backgrounds and expertise, from scientists and engineers to psychics and mediums. And yet, they all seem to come back with the same conclusion. Alcatraz is a paranormal hotspot.
It's amazing to me that even with all of our technology and scientific advancements, there are still places and phenomena that we just can't fully explain. It's a reminder that there's still so much mystery in the world, and that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that defy logic and reason.
I think that's what draws so many people to Alcatraz. It's not just the history or the notoriety of the prison itself. It's the fact that it represents the unknown, the unexplainable.
Yeah.
It's a place where the veil between our world and the world beyond seems to thin, and that can be both terrifying and exhilarating.
So we've talked about the theories, the evidence, the history, and the legends. But what about the human element? What about the people who visit Alcatraz today?
Yeah,
Do they report experiencing anything unusual?
absolutely. Visitors and staff alike share just countless stories of chilling encounters on Alcatraz. Some of the most common reports involve seeing shadowy figures darting through the cell blocks or standing motionless in corners.
I can only imagine how unsettling that would be, especially knowing the history of the place. You'd almost expect to see something out of the corner of your eye.
Right. And then there are the disembodied voices that people hear. Tour guides often hear whispers, screams, or footsteps when the island is supposedly empty.
It's enough to make anyone wonder if they're truly alone.
Right.
That's the stuff of nightmares. But are there any other common experiences that visitors report besides the shadowy figures and the voices?
One of the most frequently reported phenomena is sudden drops in temperature, often referred to as cold spots.
Oh, yeah.
These are areas where the temperature just inexplicably plummets, even when there's no logical reason for it.
I've always heard about cold spots being associated with ghosts. Do you think it's possible that these temperature drops are caused by the presence of spirits?
It's certainly a possibility, and one that many paranormal investigators believe. The idea is that spirits can draw energy from their surroundings, and this can sometimes manifest as that sudden drop in temperature.
Okay, now I'm starting to get really creeped out. Is there anything else that visitors commonly report? Or have we covered all the spooky bases?
Well, there's one more phenomenon that we haven't discussed yet, and it's perhaps the most unsettling of all. Poltergeist activity.
Poltergeists. Like objects moving on their own. Now that's just terrifying. Are you telling me that people have actually witnessed poltergeist activity on Alcatraz?
Yes. Some visitors report objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut, or these unexplained banging sounds.
Yeah.
It's as if some unseen force is at work, just toying with the visitors and reminding them that they are not alone.
Wow, I think we've officially covered all the spooky bases.
Yeah.
Alcatraz really does seem to live up to its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America.
It's a place where history, mystery, and the paranormal, they all just converge. It creates this experience that's both fascinating and unsettling. And while we've explored many of the haunted locations and chilling tales associated with Alcatraz, there's still so much more to uncover.
Well, I, for one, am hooked. We're going to need another part to this deep dive to explore everything as Alcatraz has to offer. What other spooky secrets await us in part 3?
Well, next time, we'll delve deeper into the psychological factors that might be at play on Alcatraz. We'll explore the impact of the island's unique design and history on the human psyche, and maybe even touch on some personal accounts from those who've had truly unforgettable encounters with the other side.
So to our listeners, if you're brave enough, join us for the final part of our deep dive into the haunting tales of Alcatraz. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last 2 parts exploring some seriously chilling stories and evidence that suggests Alcatraz might be more than just a former prison, like maybe a portal to the paranormal.
Yeah, Alcatraz has a way of captivating our imaginations, makes us question what we think we know about the boundaries between our world and the world beyond. But beyond the ghost stories and paranormal investigations, there's another layer to this mystery.
Oh.
Yeah, the psychological impact of Alcatraz itself.
I've been thinking about that. Alcatraz was designed to break the spirit of even the toughest criminals, right?
Oh, yeah.
Solitary confinement, sensory deprivation, the constant threat of violence.
Right.
It's no wonder that so many inmates suffered psychological breakdowns while they were there.
Right.
Could that lingering trauma, that sense of despair, be contributing to the paranormal activity that we've been discussing?
It's a compelling theory. Imagine the emotional residue left behind by decades of human suffering. Fear, anger, desperation.
Yeah.
These powerful emotions can really leave a lasting imprint on a place, especially somewhere as isolated and steeped in negativity as Alcatraz.
So you're saying that some of the paranormal phenomena we've been talking about,
Yeah.
like the shadowy figures, disembodied voices,
Mm-hmm.
could those be manifestations of psychological trauma?
Possibly.
It's almost as if the island itself is absorbing the pain and anguish of its former inhabitants and then reflecting it back out into the world.
That's one way to look at it. We know that extreme stress and isolation can have profound effects on the human mind, sometimes leading to hallucinations, paranoia, even breaks with reality. So it's not a stretch to imagine that those same psychological effects could, in some cases, be mistaken for paranormal activity.
It's like those emotions become so powerful, so concentrated, that they transcend the individual and become part of the very fabric of the place. It's almost as if Alcatraz is haunted, not just by spirits, but by the collective suffering of all those who were imprisoned there.
Exactly, and the island's unique design with its cold, unforgiving architecture, those labyrinthine corridors, oppressive atmosphere,
Right.
it all amplifies that sense of unease and dread. It's a place that seems almost tailor-made to trigger our primal fears and make us question what's real and what's not.
So we've got the historical trauma, the psychological impact of the prison itself, and all those paranormal theories that we discussed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a recipe for the ultimate haunted location. But what I find really fascinating is that even knowing all of this, people are still drawn to Alcatraz. Millions of visitors each year make the pilgrimage to this island, eager to experience its chilling atmosphere firsthand.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think there are several reasons. For some, it's the historical significance. Alcatraz is this tangible reminder of a dark chapter in American history.
Right.
A place where some of the nation's most notorious criminals were held captive. It's a place where we can confront our past and learn from the mistakes that were made.
And for others, it's the mystery, the allure of the unknown. We, humans, are naturally curious creatures. We're drawn to the things that we don't understand. Alcatraz, with its reputation for paranormal activity, unsettling stories, it taps into that primal fascination with the world beyond our senses.
Exactly. It's a place where we can test the limits of our beliefs, explore the possibility that there might be more to reality than meets the eye. And let's not forget the power of storytelling. I mean, for generations, we've been sharing ghost stories, tales of the supernatural. These stories serve a purpose. They help us make sense of the world around us, confront our fears, explore the boundaries of what's possible.
And Alcatraz is like this giant storybook, filled with tales of the unexplained and the macabre.
Yeah.
It's a place where history, legend, and imagination all collide,
Yeah.
creating an experience that's both captivating and unsettling.
We've talked a lot about the chilling aspects of Alcatraz, but it's important to remember that it's also a place of remarkable beauty and natural wonder.
Right.
Located in the heart of San Francisco Bay, the island offers these stunning views of the city skyline, the Golden Gate Bridge, and the surrounding waters.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there's always light to be found.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's the most enduring lesson of Alcatraz. That even in the face of suffering, despair, and the unknown, the human spirit endures.
Alcatraz is this place of contrast, a blend of darkness and light, history and mystery, beauty and sorrow. It's a place that challenges us to confront our fears, question our beliefs, and just marvel at that enduring power of the human spirit.
We've explored the chilling tales, the compelling evidence, and the various theories surrounding the hauntings of Alcatraz. But perhaps the most important question isn't whether or not the island is truly haunted,
Right.
but what these stories tell us about ourselves, our fears, our fascination with the unknown.
And as we conclude our deep dive into the haunting tales of Alcatraz, we leave you with this final thought. If you could visit Alcatraz, which location would you be most curious or afraid to explore?
Oh, for me, it would have to be D Block.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about those dark, isolated cells that just sends shivers down my spine. To stand in a place where so much suffering and despair unfolded, to feel the weight of those emotions, it would be a truly humbling experience.
I understand that. Those cells are a stark reminder of the human capacity for both cruelty and resilience. Personally, I would be drawn to the utility corridor. To stand in the very spot where that desperate escape attempt played out. To imagine the fear and the chaos of that moment. It would be a really powerful way to connect with the history of Alcatraz.
It's as if those places become these touchstones to the past, allowing us to step back in time and experience history in this visceral, tangible way. And while we may never fully understand the mysteries of Alcatraz, the stories, the legends, the lingering questions, they continue to captivate us, reminding us that there's still so much that we don't know about the world around us, and perhaps about ourselves.
Well said. Alcatraz is a place that stays with you long after you've left its shores. It's a reminder that some places hold on to their history, their secrets, their stories, long after the people who inhabited them are gone.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the haunting tales of Alcatraz. We hope you've enjoyed the journey.